Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of this Ayn Rand, or part 20. It doesn't really matter. We're just going to keep going today.
Part 437.
Yes, we've essentially gone through each page of her entire philosophical work, The Objectivist.
Which I have to say, out of everything that we've been reading with philosophers, and we will see others, and we're going to do some that contradict, but when it comes to creational laws, a lot of her teachings seem to be lining up with what is happening. She observed reality, understood it, and wrote it in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
In her novels.
She reasoned with reality. She reasoned with nature.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, oh, that's how nature's working? Oh, am I a part of nature? Yeah. Should I also operate like that? Probably.
When you mean operate?
Make choices.
Make choices, yeah.
I love the tree metaphor. Even if she looked at a tree, she's like, well, how do I be the tree? How do I reason? Okay, the highest moral would be me to give shade to anybody. Whether I've used this before, Mother Teresa or a rapist or a terrorist. I'm a tree. It doesn't care who you are. It gives the shade to cool you off from the hot sun regardless. It gives you the opportunity to rest and learn. That's how I should be. I should be giving all the time. That is life because it allows for other opportunities to occur. Other probabilities. I don't limit them. So in this episode, I want to talk about the great filter. And what is that great filter? That great filter is free will. So let's dive into it. What's our topic here?
Yeah, so this pocket guide to objectivism, and you can get it on Amazon. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can get it for free. Free will versus determinism.
Mm-hmm.
The issue of free will versus determinism is one of the fundamental enduring issues in philosophy. So people usually pick two sides. Sam Harris, which is he's very popular now. He did that meditative app that's #1 right now that everybody uses. He said there is no free will. So when there are people that are extremely popular that do not believe in free will. So you have to understand that. But the questions that she asks is, do we have genuine choice among alternative actions? She's going to answer them, but we can talk about them now.
I am on my knees. Someone has a gun pointed to my head. I have essentially two options. I could stand there, not do anything, and just let them shoot me in the face. Or I could realize that I have a choice in this moment, that I can do one more thing to try and survive. And that's knock the gun out of the hand, dive out of the way, do whatever I can very quickly. But I always have choice. And you can always choose to give up and always choose not to take an action. It's always there. Even in the most limiting situations. Say let's think about a weird scenario. Say there's a room that only I can fit in. And there's no movement for me to go anywhere. And I'm just in there. Do I have choice in that moment? What are my choices? What does free will look like? Is free will completely material? The fact that my body is limited by its ability to move. What about my mind? Do I still have choice in my mind? Do I give up in my mind and say, just because my body can't move, does that mean my mind is caged? What do you think?
I think it's, Man's Search for Meaning. And I think when he wrote that, when he was in... Viktor Frankl or whatever, when he wrote that book, when he was in the concentration camps, and he decided that within himself, he goes, yeah, physically I may be in a concentration camp and I could die at any moment, but I know that no matter what they do to me physically, they cannot control my mind.
No. Trotzdem wir zum Leben sagen. Yeah. Nobody can actually stop you from making a choice, stop you from having that free will. You choose in your mind. The great filter of your life is choice.
Mm-hmm. And that's what she says. Are we in genuine control of our choices?
Always.
Yes.
Always. Even if someone is holding me down, raping me, they're going to shoot me, whatever it is, they may be physically stopping me. They cannot affect the choice that happens in my mind, though. And what they will do will always be temporary. It will never be permanent. Because the physical has no permanence. But your thoughts, your free will of thoughts in your mind, that choice, that is permanent. The truth is you will always have free will. You will always have that choice. That's something that's timeless.
Yeah, and I was reading an article the other day, and they were talking about the spies that were in the, they had these, how would you call them? Houses of your repute or whatever people call them. They have funny names for it. But they had basically these women that were very beautiful in Germany, and the top German officials would come to this place, and they had put these beautiful women in charge. The Germans had. So, the British knew if they could get to these women, and then have them ask questions and stuff like that in the time, because some of the German officers, and they were talking about it, some of the German officers, they'd want like 3 or 4 women at a time, and then they'd be extremely abusive, but they would talk, of course, and the British knew that they could get information from them, and that woman has a choice to make in that moment. Yeah, she's put in a situation, the Germans put her in a situation where she has to give of herself physically to these horrific men. But even in that choice, when she said, I'm working for the British and I'm going to be a spy, now there's power there. Do you see what I'm saying? Even in a horrific situation,
she still has a mental choice that she's made.
So now the game is different.
Yeah.
The board has shifted.
She's not a victim.
Now she's not a victim. She's like, I'm doing this. I can do this in my own power, and I'm doing this, and I'm going to get information that's going to help.
I am making the choice to be here, to do this, be in this house, deal with this situation, use my body for the greater good, whatever it might be. That's her choice. You always have a choice. Think about the people in the concentration camps. Choices were limited. If you try and attack the soldiers, they're probably going to shoot you dead. But you do have a choice. Or you could walk around and just be used like cattle, used just for labor until you've expended that labor, there's no energy left, and then you're dismissed physically. But you have a choice. Do you retaliate, or you do what they want? Do you remain quiet, or are you loud? Do you feel trapped in your mind, or do you still feel free? Do you let the Germans define for you how you are as a human being? Or do you decide that for yourself? Do you say that the Jewish collective is stronger than what the Nazis are currently interpreting through their fascist ideas? That's up for you to decide, not for the Nazis to say that you're less. There's always choice. Even if you're in a limited material scenario, the choice always exists. Free will is always there. That is that great filter. And when you lose that filter in life, you lose life.
Yeah. In the book, it says objectivism holds that we have free will. What you just said, listen, we choose our actions through the direct control we have over the inner actions of our mind.
That's literally what I just said. Enough said.
Especially the role of attention.
Right.
Thinking about a promise, you can focus on the value of keeping your word or on a short-term gain from breaking the promise. And you will act accordingly. The fact of free will is self-evident.
Of course it's self-evident.
We can observe directly that we have the ability to control our minds, to focus our thoughts on one consideration or another, and thus to direct our own actions. Determinism, on the other hand, claim that free will is not compatible with science, that believing in free will means denying causality.
You don't have to believe in free will. It's right in front of you. You can see it all day long.
How do they believe that it denies causality? Free will proves causality.
That's exactly correct. These jackasses clearly haven't thought it through to the end.
And here's what the book says. The law of causality says that things act in accordance with their natures.
Okay, and if your nature is free will, choice, action, well, the
billiard balls, they go into that, and we've talked about that before. Billiard balls react mechanically. They don't strive to go in the pocket. Living organisms do strive to live. Their goal-directed action is a higher, more inwardly directed form of causality. The human power of choice is a further step in inward control in which we cause our actions through voluntary attention. This is so important.
Right. That's exactly correct. Actually, there's no clarification needed on that.
The human power of choice is a further step in inward control. The more you can control your mind, the more you have the ability to influence.
The more you have the ability to liberate yourself and others.
Yes.
But if you can't control your thoughts, if you can't control your emotions and actions, you're never going to be in control.
Well, it gives up all responsibility for you. If there is no free will, then why the fuck am I even trying?
Why do I need to be responsible?
What game is there to play?
Yeah, why do I go to work? What's the point?
It's already outlined for me. What a horrific.
The government outlined it for me.
In this respect, free will highlights an essential aspect of the objectivist view of mind and body. Though we deny the existence of a supernatural realm and an eternal soul divorced from the body, which that we would,
I would clarify on
we
that.
would disagree with that.
It's not an eternal soul. You have the energy of spirit,
Yeah,
which is a part
which
and
they would
parcel
probably,
of creation.
you know, they're, I think a lot of this teaching is atheistic. So I doubt they, you know, reincarnation, all that stuff. So, because I said we would
Which is
disagree with
something
things.
missed. All you have to do is look at the universe and say that reincarnation happens all the time.
Within and of itself, it's nature.
Yeah. it's just
Objectivists
nature.
do not accept a materialist or reductionist view of mind. Consciousness is a real part of nature, and the human form of consciousness, with our distinctive faculty of reason and freedom, is what it is.
It's what it is. What did we write the other day? It just is.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
But reason and freedom, because that's what they're saying, is our distinctive faculty of reason and freedom and consciousness.
Okay.
It is just the ability to be self-aware and to understand that you can make decisions in your free will based off of reason and freedom.
Through the self-awareness, I realized that I can make choice. And then the question is, do I want to make that choice? And then I reason whether or not that choice should be made.
Right.
That happens with the self-awareness. It happens with the attention on the self. It happens with the focus on the self. Attention. Remember they talked about attention?
Mm-hmm.
That's where it starts. Why do you think people why do you think, meditate? Because it's asking you to have attention on one thing, not 1,000 different things. How are you supposed to reason or make choice if your attention is in a million different directions? You never really know. You haven't fully thought it through.
And they always go into, and they're going to explain it here in a second, they always go into science and say, well, basically, you know, we don't have free will because science has proven this or whatever. Listen to this statement.
What is how could science possibly prove that we don't have free will?
Scientific advances will explain how the nervous systems give rise to these capacities. Listen to the statement, bro. But explanation is not reduction.
Just because you explained something, you haven't deduced it down to what it really is.
If you ask a neuroscientist,
The sun is a star. Okay. Do we go further than that? Do we deduce it down? What is it? It's an energy source. What is it? Oh, it's a part of nature. Oh, is nature a part of creation? Yes. Very interesting. Did the stars help all the atoms and materials, exist, all the elements here on this planet? Yeah, it did. Am I part of the star? Yeah. Does that make me part of creation? Well, I guess it would. Well, that's really fucking interesting.
well, ask any top scientist, brain scientist, neuroscientist, whatever. Ask any of them. What percentage do we in science understand consciousness? They will all say the same thing. Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
They say that.
We only know what do they say? We only know what 10% of the brain does.
Yeah.
The brain has nothing to do with your consciousness. That's just understanding how the organism of the brain works. Now let's talk about human thought. That's something completely separate. That's too abstract for them.
Our freedom to choose our actions is of the essence of what it means to be human.
Oh my goodness. The essence, the core of what it means to be a human being. Your right to life is your freedom to choose. Your freedom to choose is your right to live. That's what you have. And all you have, what you have a right to is living in the moment. You can't change the past, right? No, you can't change the future because it hasn't occurred. All you have control over is choice in the moment. You're alive. You're in this moment. What choice do you want to make? That is the absolute epicenter of the human being right there. That's your control. That's essentially the realm you live in is the moment. But people choose to live in the past and the future, be a victim of either or. Eradicate their free will or choice, and they live in this hypothesis of what could be or what was.
And you're not even realizing what choice is. Choice is just learning. There's no bad or good choices. It's just learning.
And what does choice do? Choice affords the ability of evolution to happen.
Yes. And they said it underlines our need for moral guidance and moral ideals to live by. What we call our spiritual needs are not in conflict with our physical or biological needs.
Why? They're one and the same.
See, that's where they always want to separate.
Yeah.
Most philosophers want to separate the spiritual, the supernatural part from the physical and biological.
They're one in the same.
They're one and the same. Objectivism holds that spiritual values are of vital importance, fulfillment, and happiness. Spiritual values are those pertaining to the needs of human consciousness, arising from the human capacity for reason, creativity, free will, and self-awareness.
Love.
That's consciousness.
That's all consciousness is.
It's that simple.
The great filter. The great filter is free will. That's what it is.
If you were on a 10 for reason, creativity, free will, and self-awareness, if you're on a 10 in your life, just think about that.
Mm-hmm.
How badass would your life be?
It'd be pretty badass. You'd be blissed out all the time.
And they said these needs, our conscious needs this. These needs include self-esteem, love, art, and philosophy.
Wow.
She was big into art, which is...
Those are deep, deep expressions of choice.
Mm-hmm. And individual freedom.
Of course, because when you look at art, it's to that artist. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, oh, here's the art of humanity.
Yes.
No, it's the art of that artist. It's the personality. It's the choice. It's the upbringing. It's the learnings. It's all those things that make them a human being translated from their consciousness state onto a medium.
And it's so funny. They always accuse Ayn Rand of being capitalist in the sense of just being selfish and trying to make as much money. And it's all about money and industry. Listen to this statement.
Does it look like that lady gives a shit about money? Is she wearing gold? She's got a basic haircut and she's wearing the most simple ring in the world.
And go on her, if you go read, because there's a lot of TV of her on YouTube. Listen to this. Achieving these values in one's life, she's talking about reason, creativity, free will, and self-awareness. Achieving these values in one life is no less important than providing for one's material needs and achieving worldly success. This is where we skip. We don't think art or creativity is as important as being a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. You see what I'm saying? We say, yeah, art is here and it's kind of on the fringe, but she's saying it is no less important. This is a part of who you are as an individual. You need to understand you.
Entrepreneurialism is creativity. It is art.
Yes.
Painting on a canvas and creating a new product is art. It requires creative thought. Creative thought is creation. It's a function of natural laws. It's the macrocosm brought down into the microcosm, into something we have built, we have created through human engineering and ingenuity and purpose. All these different businesses have different flavors of the people that actually founded them.
If you had reason and you had it at a high level and you could look at situations and you felt completely in control of those situations and you made decisions based off of yourself, the betterment of yourself, and the betterment of the greater good for the globe. And then you turn around and you had creativity and you found new ways to do things that are more efficient, better, and create a ton of value for the globe. If you had free will where you didn't care what other people thought because you knew that this was right and this is a decision that you're going to make, and then you had self-awareness enough to act on that and to execute it flawlessly, you're going to have monetary value.
Of course.
You're going to be successful.
Because that secondarily comes with it, because if you're uplifting all those other people, they will support you in the good that you're doing.
And if you have high self-esteem, which she was talking about, if you're loving yourself and others, if you're looking at it as an art form, and you have a philosophy, a macro view of everything that you're doing and understand not just yourself, but understand how the world operates around you, that's philosophy. Now, the material needs, you're not going to need anything material.
No, you wouldn't.
It will all be provided to you.
All you will ever need is your arm and your head resting on it, okay? And a place for you to stay out of the rain.
Yes.
And there's many places you can find that. Everything you need is always there. All the oxygen, all the fresh running streams. Go find them. Go make the choice to go there. Go realize the value that sits around you.
And maybe a painter and he wants to live on $2,000 a month.
Okay.
And he's ultra happy and he can paint all day and he could sell a few paintings and he dies and 60 years later his paintings are worth $2 million. You know how many artists have been painting this? But he knows that he lived his passion and purpose. He only made $24,000 a year. Who gives a fuck?
No one cares.
His moral and ethical codes and the things that he's living by, that is his free will and his art that he's producing for himself.
On his own
creativity.
On his own path of learning. And it's not to say that he had a better path of learning or had a higher value because after the fact when he died, his painting sold for $10 million. Who cares? That does not define his path of learning.
It's just an appreciation of his value.
Because people spend so much on Picasso, does that mean you love funding chauvinistic ideas?
Has nothing to do with that.
Has nothing to do with that. But that's what we benchmark stuff against. People do it all the time.
So whenever you look at, let's take a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. and so obviously see he's wildly successful.
Mm-hmm.
To get to that point in life, I mean,
Successful
you're
in the
better
sense
off
of
to make
business?
the MBA than become a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. So he had to have his shit together, or she did.
In some fashion, yes.
I mean, yeah, whether his moral views are wrong or right, we're not taking that into consideration. This person worked their ass off. You can't be a CEO of a company unless you're willing to work.
Right.
Constantly.
Yes.
You know this.
I do. Yep.
Because you're getting pulled in 50 different directions all the time. You're having to, I'm lucky. I deal with one thing, pretty much one thing only, marketing. It's easy for me. I have one focus. I can look at all this other shit and we ask questions and we talk about it. But at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. I have one main objective: to make sure Tartle is successful in their marketing.
Right.
You, on the other hand, have HR, have employees to worry about, have a board to worry about, have investors to worry about, have product to worry about, have a website to worry. I mean, your attention is split into, and you can look at our Slack and see how many ways it's split into.
Correct.
And then you have to be the person that oversees all of that, as your title is, to make sure that everything is progressing in a proper order.
Yes.
So to be a CEO, I wouldn't want your job at all. Not at all. It does not, to be a CEO of a company does not, I don't want to do that. That's not me. If somebody offered me the CEO of a corporation, I would say no.
You want to be the CEO of Tartle?
No, I don't. I wouldn't be able to. You know why? Not that I could do that, because I can do anything.
But it's not you.
But it's not my passion. I can't be creative in that moment.
Then you'll never do it well.
And I'll never do it well, exactly.
Yeah. And you know why?
Because my heart's not into it.
You know why you do so well with marketing? Because that's your passion.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know how to learn and speak to people.
Yes.
That's your gig.
It allows me to be, it allows me to use the gifts and abilities that I have to be creative. And my free will is fully expressed in that art form.
Correct.
And it's the same with you. But when you look at but I'm saying, when you look at a CEO, there's very, 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 very few people in the world that can handle that position. But that does not mean that a person's any more, any less.
Correct.
A person makes that decision to be and take that responsibility. When stockholders look at a company that's public, they're looking at the CEO. Mm-hmm. The CEO is the ultimate responsibility of that corporation. They will fire a CEO based off of
public perception too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to it, but
yeah.
I'm just saying, but that person, just as you, have choose the responsibility of that position. Don't choose responsibilities, because here's the problem. Here's where I'm getting at, long way around. People make decisions based against their free will. They will take a position because they feel obligated to, when they know it's not right.
So then you've adopted a losing game. You've gone into the casino and you've told yourself, I'm going to win all day long. That casino is not your casino. It's somebody else's. It's somebody else's game. Somebody else's rules.
I was in Wynn, and they were there. He loves art, I think Steve Wynn is his name. Mm-hmm. And there was a statue, a bronze statue there, just sitting out in the middle of the open. They said it was worth like $30 million or something. And then there's just stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you buy a bronze statue for $30 million in a casino? There's a reason.
Yeah, because everybody who walks in loses. Don't put yourself into that game. All right? Don't be a CEO just for the title. Do it because you want the responsibility and the purpose. You do it because you align with those passions. Be an artist, not for the money, but because you want to be an artist. Because you want to express yourself in that form or function. And
fulfillment and happiness, which he talks a lot about, it's not selfish. To have 100% fulfillment and happiness in your life, that's what she says over and over and over again. What makes you happy? What makes you fulfilled?
Right. People operate at their best when they feel fulfilled, when they feel happy. If you're depressed and stagnant, you're never going to operate at the top performance, ever. It shines through every time. If someone walks into a party, you can see when they're putting on a fake smile, right? And it just brings everything else down.
I was talking to a real estate agent the other day. This is so funny. Prime example.
You buying a house?
No. And not at all. And I don't want any responsibility for that. I'm happy living in a small place.
You want some debt? I can give you $300,000 in debt.
Yeah, exactly. A mortgage.
Yeah.
A death note. No, but whenever, look it up. But whenever it's on our TikTok.
Yeah.
It's one of our main videos.
People love that.
But whenever you look at this real estate agent, and I was like, well, what got you in real estate? Are you passionate about it? No, not really. It just allows me the opportunity to work for myself. And I'm like, well, how well have you done? You know, most realtors, part-time realtors especially, do like a couple houses a year.
Big whoop.
Yeah, it's like, it's
What
not
do you get, 3%.
why would you, it's not even that nowadays. They're splitting it and all kinds of stuff. You know, Zillow's taking over and all that, decentralizing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would you do something? Okay, you want freedom to be able to do what you want.
But
There are so many, find your passion and then find a way through your creativity and free will to do something that you're passionate about. Maybe you love dogs. Okay. Can you start a shelter? And then you can work with dogs all day long?
Sure. Use your realtor thing. Go realtor a shelter up.
Yeah.
You know,
Get some investors together, get passionate about it, get some people together. How much are you making as a realtor? Probably not that much. I guarantee if you made a no-kill shelter
yeah.
for dogs, I guarantee you can make an income off of that.
Yeah. And you'd probably be happy doing it
Mm-hmm.
rather than just saying, oh, I'm just doing this so I can work for myself. Well, who cares if you work for yourself? Like, whoop. But it's not really who you are, what you want to do. Working for yourself does not tell you what your passions are.
Mm-mm.
Obviously, anyone's going to be passionate about doing something for themselves
Right.
because it's for the betterment of you. But it is that thing that you're doing, even though you're doing it for yourself, is it truly who you are?
We were talking we made another video about the Big Seven today, and we were talking to our video guy, and he has his own company, and he was talking about he was shifting it. He's evolving.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about. Like he's like and I asked him, I said, your brand's maturing and all that stuff. It's evolving. You know what I mean? So he had this other thing, and then, but I love, and maybe we can close on this and you can talk about this. I love when people pivot like that based off their evolution.
Correct.
Be free, pivot.
That's what
You don't have to be bound. He's like, I'm changing my name. I'm doing everything. Great. Go in that direction.
Crush it.
Yeah.
He even said, I'm more passionate about this. So this is what I want to brand into.
It's awesome.
Oh, good. Oh, you're working for yourself? Well, you have been. But you realize that just working for yourself wasn't exactly what you wanted to work. So you wanted to rebrand it.
And if that works, great. If it doesn't work, he's learned. How many people, the Zappos guy recently passed away, it's just sad. But he was talking about that. He had like 7 or 8 failed companies. Then finally Amazon bought him for, billions of dollars. And it was like, and he talked about that. He goes, I wouldn't have got to Zappos if I wouldn't have done this failure, this failure, this failure, and this failure.
Yeah, but he had to learn from each one.
Mm-hmm.
And then he evolved to a place where, oh, this is actually working. And someone's like, hey, that works. Can we offer you value for it?
Amazon still left him the CEO.
Yeah.
After they bought him out, they're like, hey, what you got going on?
Why change it?
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing.
So let's wrap this up. So whenever we look at free will,
Yep.
and we look at it being a core value of what nature is and these creational laws that we have, because I want to make sure I word this right, because this is very important. Whenever somebody feels that their free will is being imposed on by someone else, I think a lot of times we do it to ourselves. We're our own worst enemy.
Yep.
How do we pull ourselves out of it? How can we gain that self-awareness to say, I'm in this moment right now, and I have 100% responsibility to make this decision.
Yep.
How can we make that decision and know that we're following the right path?
Then just stop for a moment. Can I make this decision? First of all, you got to make that determination. Can I do it? Do I have the wherewithal in my mind to will this decision? Yes or no? If you do, great. Now think about, at that moment, if I do this decision, will this expand the amount of free will and choice I have, or will it continue to limit it? Will this thought expand my free will, or will it limit it? So when you're going and you're having these conversations in your mind, if you feel bad about something, you start to feel like a victim and be like, is this limiting my free will? Yes or no? If it is, that doesn't work for me. This is going to cut back on my life's probabilities. Don't do that. Don't you want to open up all the opportunity in the world? And don't you want, everyone talks about, it's like, we got to give opportunity to everyone. Well, teach them how to find opportunity in their own mind first.
Yes.
Okay. And once that's found, then you can start willing things to happen in the material that respect the free will, that respect opportunity, choice, and evolution.